Hello, I'm John Hagelin, quantum physicist, president of the David Lynch Foundation, and certified teacher of the Transcendental Meditation technique. Welcome to this introductory lecture on Transcendental Meditation. The first step in learning how to meditate is hearing about it. We're going to be considering what meditation is, what are its benefits, and why would somebody invest the time, twice a day, to meditate? Firstly, what is meditation? Is it a way to relax? Is it a technique to promote health and vitality and longevity? Is it a means to develop creativity, IQ, and peak mental performance? Or is it a path to inner peace and enlightenment? It is all these things, actually, and more. To really understand meditation, we have to understand what consciousness is. And to understand what consciousness is, we need to take a moment to understand what science says about the nature of reality, about the nature of the physical universe. And by the way, if you don't understand a word of what I'm saying for the next 2 or 3 minutes, it doesn't matter. Learning meditation and enjoying its benefits is easy. Children from the age of 10 can master it. But for those who'd like to understand a little bit more about what it is and how it works, I'm going to give you a brief context to understand, I think, easily the rest of the talk. Modern science has been exploring the nature of reality for centuries. And during the past 20 years, modern science has probed deeper levels of reality. Modern science has said that beneath the surface level of macroscopic objects, day-to-day sensory reality, is the deeper world of the molecule and the atom and the nucleus and subnuclear levels of nature's functioning, as shown in this chart. This chart summarizes the results of 300 years of modern scientific research. It shows that the universe is structured in layers of creation, from superficial diversity at the top of the chart to fundamental unity at the bottom of the chart. It shows that deep within the atom and atomic nucleus, at the core of creation, is the unified field, the fulfillment of Einstein's lifelong dream to discover the single unified source of the diversified universe. Modern science has identified this unified field today in the context of modern superstring theories. It has discovered the unified source of all the diverse laws of nature governing the universe and maintaining order throughout the universe. Now, meditation in this context, properly understood and properly practiced, as this next chart shows, is a systematic technique to turn the attention powerfully within. Normally, the outwardly directed attention, directed through the senses, is turned around in meditation and directed within to experience and explore more settled states of mind, deeper levels of human intelligence. And these deeper levels of human intelligence correspond, as this chart shows, with deeper levels of intelligence in nature. In meditation, this inward flow of the awareness quickly culminates in the experience of the unified field at the source of thought, in the most silent, settled state of human awareness, in the most maximally expanded, deeply silent state of consciousness, in the so-called meditative state. The individual awareness expands to experience this unified field, the fundamental unity of life, the fundamental unity of humanity. Now let's get practical for a moment. This meditative state has profound physiological and mental benefits. In this deeply settled state of mind, the so-called meditative state, the mind and body are both profoundly settled. The body gains a deep state of rest, deeper than sleep. And this has been extensively shown in published scientific research, including, for example, this very important major study shown here, a meta-analysis of 146 previously published studies on the effects of meditation on relaxation and reduction of stress. What this chart shows is that the meditative state is a fourth state of consciousness, distinct from waking, dreaming, or sleeping. And in this fourth state of consciousness, a state of restful alertness, the body is deeply rested, again, deeper than sleep, and that efficiently dissolves accumulated stress and fatigue. This chart contrasts transcendental meditation as a powerful means to reduce stress and stress-related disease to every other form of meditation and relaxation. It considers, for example, progressive muscle relaxation, so-called mindfulness meditation, the so-called relaxation response, biofeedback, concentration, etc. And it shows that these other forms of meditation actually are no more effective than placebo, which in this case just means eyes closed rest, at reducing stress. But at the top of the chart, I think you can see the Transcendental Meditation Program is unique. It is far more effective at reducing stress and the negative effects of stress on health and brain functioning. And the reason for that in a nutshell is that the TM program brings profound rest, and other techniques, for example, concentration, do not. Concentration actually keeps the mind engaged, keeps it active, keeps it focused. Well, that may be fine, but it's the opposite of settling down, of expansion of comprehension, and profound inner silence. And it's the inner silence in the mind that brings silence in the body, profound physiological rest. Naturally, when stress is reduced so powerfully, we expect health to improve. That's because the vast majority of disease is in fact caused by stress. So when we look, for example, at this next slide, one of many studies funded by the National Institutes of Health on transcendental meditation and reducing heart disease, and in particular high blood pressure, which is the #1 risk factor for heart disease. This chart contrasts the effect of transcendental meditation with eyes closed rest, shown in red, with what's called progressive muscle relaxation, shown in orange. And in comparison to these other techniques of relaxation, which are frankly not very effective, transcendental meditation brings a steady and profound cumulative drop in blood pressure month after month after month, resulting in a normalization of blood pressure for those with high blood pressure. More effective, in fact, than hypertensive drugs. Without the negative side effects of hypertensive drugs, without the lifetime of dependency or expensive hypertensive drugs. But it's not just blood pressure. Every major category of disease is profoundly improved, that means prevented, through regular meditation. That means 10 to 20 minutes, 15 to 20 minutes, twice a day. That regular deep rest regularly dissolves stress and prevents stress-related disease. So if we look at this chart, which summarizes every major category of disease, in a major study using Blue Cross Blue Shield statistics, we see, for example, 87% drop in heart disease, 2/3 drop in the incidence of cancer, 93% reduction in diseases of the nervous system, and so forth, simply by providing the body this much-needed rest to eliminate the stress that is the causative factor in the majority of disease. This chart shows that there have been over 600 published scientific studies conducted at 250 independent medical schools and leading universities in the United States and throughout the world, showing the profound health and mental benefits of transcendental meditation. This research makes TM the most extensively researched technique of meditation in the world, and as a result, the most broadly prescribed by doctors and the most widely practiced program of meditation in the world by far. Interestingly enough, not just stress-related disease, but stress-driven behaviors improve as a result of transcendental meditation. For example, this study on smoking cessation compares the relative effectiveness of different approaches. This is again a major study, a so-called meta-analysis of 131 previously published studies. And it compares transcendental meditation on the left and its effectiveness at preventing smoking and reducing nicotine addiction to things like the patch or pharmacological approaches, preventive education approaches, smoking cessation counseling, and so forth, and shows that the TM program is far more effective than anything else that has ever been studied at preventing smoking and quitting smoking. And it's an amazing thing, really, because the teacher of transcendental meditation isn't a coach saying, now buck up, Bobby, and stop your smoking now. He doesn't talk about smoking, or she. They just give the technique of profound inner silence, profound rest, inner happiness, and smoking just falls off. In fact, when you're more attuned to your body, When you have less stress, you become a little more sensitive, in fact, to harmful things, and smoking starts to taste, frankly, rather harsh and distasteful. And people just drop it. It's as simple and natural as that. Finally, in the world of health, I think I'm going to show one more of these 600 published studies. This one has to do with diabetes and what's called metabolic syndrome. Metabolic syndrome is called the modern malaise. It's an epidemic. It affects adults and children. So metabolic syndrome is simply a combination of high blood pressure, diabetes, and obesity. And unfortunately, all three of these risk factors tend to get worse with age and tend to be worse with stress. Transcendental meditation is the only thing that has ever been found to simultaneously improve all of these risk factors. And when this was discovered only last summer, the American Medical Association really made a sensation about it. When this was published in the Archives of Internal Medicine, the AMA released a global press release just celebrating this extraordinary finding, because nothing else had ever been shown to improve these important risk factors that have become so epidemic in our world today. And this is amazing to me because the AMA is not a friend of alternative medicine or complementary medicine. The AMA is a trade association to promote modern medicine and pharmacological medicine. It's not a government institution, it's a trade organization that really sells pharmaceuticals, and yet they were so appreciative that something could actually help the millions and millions of people with metabolic syndrome that they announced this result nationwide and worldwide, and the news went around and around and around the world. Finally, I just want to mention that actually chronic disease is more pervasive than acute disease. Chronic diseases are diseases that, by definition, for which modern medicine has no cure. And about 100 million Americans suffer from one chronic illness or another, whether it's high blood pressure or diabetes or arthritis or bronchitis or headache or whatever. Transcendental meditation profoundly improves them all. It's really an amazing blessing to those 100 million Americans who suffer from one or other of these chronic illnesses for which modern medicine really offers very little. Finally, to summarize the effects of transcendental meditation on health, I wanted to show this interesting study that looks at aging among meditators. And if you look closely at this study, you'll see that it cites the results of aging on, for example, blood pressure and hearing and the near point of focal vision, and contrasts that effect of aging with the effect of meditation. So, for example, blood pressure goes up with age, it goes down with TM. The high frequency threshold gets worse with age, it improves with TM. Near point vision deteriorates with age, but it improves with TM, and so forth. Cholesterol goes up with age, goes down with TM. Reaction time improves with TM. Learning ability, creativity, and intelligence all decrease with age, but improve with TM. And then, again, asthma, insomnia, depression, and so forth get worse with age. They improve with TM. The effects of meditation and the profound rest that comes through meditation is exactly opposite to the direction of aging. And if you actually measure someone's physiological age, if you don't tell the doctor how old you are, and you let him measure your age through your blood pressure, through your cholesterol, through your vision and hearing and so forth, a doctor will say you have the body of a 58-year-old, or whatever it is. But what you find among meditators, as the next chart shows, people who've been practicing regularly for 5 years or more have a biological age that's about 12 years younger than their chronological counterparts. Basically, we're getting the gift with meditation of 12 years of vitality and longevity. And what is that worth? It's just an extraordinary benefit of the health-promoting benefits of meditation. Now, let me leave for the moment the subject of health and emphasize that all these incredible health benefits that cause tens of thousands of doctors to prescribe TM and millions of people throughout the world to practice TM, it's all just a side effect of what is really a mental practice. It's a mental practice with profound physiological side effects. So what's going on in the mind? It must be something very profound. And that's what this chart shows. Extensive scientific research now over the past, I'd say 20 years, have examined the effects of transcendental meditation on brain functioning. And here we have a meditating student volunteering to put one of these EEG caps on so that we can actually look at and measure the electrical activity of the brain. Measure the firing of the neurons in what is called an EEG. And this is renowned brain researcher, Dr. Fred Travis, performing this experiment. And what you see is really striking. And for an educator like me, it's incredibly exciting. This chart, I'll take a moment to explain, shows on the left the brain of a normal subject in agitated, stressed, waking consciousness. It shows the top view of the brain at the top of the chart left, and the front view of the brain at the bottom of the chart left. And you see little circles on the scalp which indicate the positions of the electrodes that have been placed to measure the firing of the neurons. You'll also see on the left-hand side occasionally bars connecting neighboring regions of the brain. Those bars, where they appear, indicate that those two parts of the brain are correlated. Those two parts of the brain are communicating with each other. They're functioning in an integrated way, a coherent way. But if you see on the left-hand side in ordinary waking consciousness, there's not much coherence, not much orderliness, not much integration in the functioning of the brain. The brain is actually very scattered. Different parts of the brain are doing completely different things, and there's very little communication within the brain. But on the right-hand side of the same chart, we see the very same subject, 3 months later, practicing transcendental meditation, experiencing the unified field, the state of profound inner silence, profound inner happiness. And what we see is striking. The whole brain on the right-hand side, the meditating brain, is crisscrossed with coherence. That means the brain is communicating with itself. The left hemisphere, the right hemisphere, profoundly integrated. The frontal and occipital lobes of the brain, the temporal and parietal lobes of the brain, the whole brain functions in concert. And this is very striking. It's the difference between an orchestra warming up before the conductor has taken the podium. And what you get with the instruments all playing with no coordination is a cacophony of discordant sound, a noise, a racket. But when the conductor takes the podium, raises his baton, suddenly that noise is transformed into flowing music. And that's the difference between disorder and order, chaos and integration. So what we see during meditation is a striking, stunning integration of the brain, what's called global EEG coherence, maximum orderliness of brain functioning. That results from the expanded comprehension during the meditative state, when the individual awareness relaxes and settles and expands to experience this inner unity, inner silence. Well, why is this so exciting, apart from its purely, academic significance? It's exciting because according to decades of research, orderly brain functioning, EEG coherence, is correlated with intelligence, rising IQ, increased creativity, increased learning ability, that means short-term and long-term memory, improved academic performance, increased moral reasoning, enhanced stability, improved emotional maturity and alertness and reaction time. Everything good about the brain depends on its orderly functioning. And now today, in students and adults and anyone, orderly brain functioning can be systematically developed in anyone. And for example, that leads to, as you would expect, rising IQ, rising creativity, improved memory and learning ability, even in adults. The next study shows increased IQ in university students as they meditate, month after month and year after year. And it's extraordinary in university students, these are adults, young adults, to see increasing intelligence, to see growing IQ. Because the old-fashioned view has always been IQ peaks, intelligence peaks, at early adolescence. And it eventually begins to decline. After that, it's all downhill. By the late 30s, there's a precipitous drop in intelligence and a shrinking of the gray matter of the brain. And that, fortunately, is an obsolete now view of, a pessimistic view of human potential that's no longer true. Today we can increase orderliness, alertness, creativity, intelligence, IQ in anyone at any time throughout life. Today we know that the brain is so malleable, so plastic, so capable of forging new connections and learning fundamentally new things throughout life. But the story with the brain, the saying with the brain is, use it or lose it. And the problem is, nothing we normally do in life, and certainly nothing in education, engages or develops the total brain. If you study physics like me, you develop this little sliver. Mathematics, that sliver. Literature, this sliver. Music, here. The arts, here. But anything we study in school engages, develops a tiny sliver of the brain. And that's what psychologists mean by saying that typically we only use 5 to 10% of the innate capability of the human brain. Transcendental meditation is the only experience known to science, not hypnosis, not sleep, not dreaming, not waking, not mindfulness, not relaxation, transcending. This meditative state is the only experience that engages the total brain and develops the brain holistically and brings this integrated brain functioning that brings with it intelligence, creativity, success, learning ability. Orderly brain functioning is not a mystery. Orderly brain functioning means orderly thinking, clear speech, clear and purposeful and effective and fulfilling action. If we look at the next chart, we'll see what happens all too often in the absence of this experience of the meditative state. We see two brains. Top view. On the left-hand side, we see what is generally considered to be a normal brain with normally distributed blood flow. And on the right, we see what is the brain of a violent student. And it looks like it's filled with holes. Now, these aren't actual holes in the gray matter of the brain, but they are functional holes, parts of the brain that just aren't firing, that aren't participating actively in our moment-by-moment experience. What you tend to see too often also is, as we see on the right-hand side, a clustering of these holes at the top of the chart. The top of the chart on the right-hand side is what we call the higher brain. It's called the prefrontal cortex, also the CEO of the brain. The higher brain is what distinguishes human life from animal life. The higher brain sits over the primitive brain and exerts executive control. It's supposed to be our rational filter against primitive, impulsive, aggressive, violent behavior. It's responsible for all of our higher functions like decision-making, planning, judgment, moral reasoning. But unfortunately, and this is the key, under stress, the prefrontal cortex shuts down. As perhaps it should, because under stress, in a fight-or-flight situation, if somebody takes a swing at you, you need to duck. And you need to duck instinctively. It's not the time to philosophize about it. The reactive brain, the primitive brain, is what you need. But under chronic stress, characteristic of our schools, many of our neighborhoods, many of our jobs, many parts of the world. Under chronic stress, the prefrontal cortex shuts down chronically and fails to develop properly. And if it doesn't develop by the age of 25, typically it won't develop at all. So as a result of that, unfortunately, as a result of pervasive stress, epidemic stress levels throughout the world, we are unfortunately not really developing nearly the full potential of the brain, especially the higher brain, goes underdeveloped. And as a result, we're living in basically an adolescent world. And if you wonder what I mean by an adolescent world, turn on the television and look at some of the shows, or look at the violence throughout the world. All of that violent behavior, that stress-driven behavior, is due to the underdevelopment of the higher brain, the rational filter against primitive, aggressive, impulsive, violent behavior. So it is vital to the individual, it is vital to society that everyone has an opportunity to develop the total brain, students and adults. So, for example, in the prisons, among maximum security felons, the Transcendental Meditation program has been used with incredible success. Firstly, of course, the inmates love it. It provides relief from stress and those pressure cookers of stress. But most importantly, after meditating for 3, 6, or 9 months, people released from prisons don't go back to jail. Recidivism drops by as much as 90%. We have something in transcendental meditation that can actually rehabilitate the brain, something that prisons so far have been absolutely incapable of doing. So what a technique to prevent crime this is, just to provide it even to the prisons so that people have a chance to really grow and to rehabilitate and to restore normal brain functioning and to completely reject a life of crime. I'm an educator. I'm more interested in prevention than I am in the prisons, and I believe this technique is vital to the success, health, and happiness of our students, and indeed for everyone. Let me just show you, perhaps lastly, in this subject of brain development, an incredible study that came out this month on transcendental meditation and ADHD. Now, 5 million of our children in the United States have been diagnosed with ADHD. It's a stress-related learning disorder. 4 million of those are actually medicated by Ritalin. And Ritalin has actually now been shown to be probably ineffective, or at least it seems to be seriously in doubt. And of course, the side effects of Ritalin are not good and frankly unknown, particularly when used over years in a developing child. But anyway, what this research shows is that transcendental meditation practiced for 3 months, twice a day for about 10 or 12 minutes, for students with ADHD, profoundly reverses the symptoms of ADHD, restores balanced brain functioning, eliminates in many cases the need for ADHD drugs. And why is this? Because ADHD is a stress-related learning disorder. It has to do with the underdevelopment of the prefrontal cortex, the executive center that controls our attention. And with lack of control over the attention, we have impulsivity. We have all the behaviors we associate with the ADHD. And the amazing thing I think you should know is that children of 10 or 11, 12, 13 years old with ADHD, you probably would doubt they could sit still for a moment, let alone meditate. And the amazing thing is they take to it just like that. The experience of transcending is so charming, so alluring, that they close their eyes and boom, they're gone into this profound state of restful alertness, restoring brain balance, and just very, very quickly getting over that problem. What a godsend to the children and to the parents, millions of parents of children with ADHD who had absolutely nowhere to turn before this. This little study, not surprisingly, went around and around and around the world. A major breakthrough. So let me just end with a few comments on transcendental meditation and life in general. Take relationships, for example, and enriching and fulfilling relationships. Obviously, if somebody is very tired and very stressed, they have very little to give. And if 2 people come together with very little to give, both very needy, there's no giving and there's no receiving. Obviously, if we're fresh and alert and rested and balanced and calm and centered, our relationships are going to be that much more rewarding. And when we meditate twice a day, in the morning, before our work day, and in the afternoon, after work or after school, that gets rid of all the fatigue and the stress of the day, and it prepares us to enjoy a rich and rewarding home life or social life. But it's really more than just the release of stress. Again, meditation takes the awareness deeply within to experience finer levels, more refined, more subtle levels of thought. And in the process of experiencing more refined levels of thought, we get used to, we get accustomed to experiencing in a more refined and sensitive way. So when you see somebody else and you interact with somebody else, you're not seeing that sort of gross surface crusty body. You're seeing much more the inner person, the inner glow, the inner warmth, the inner beauty of somebody. And what happens as you meditate, you start to see more and more the beauty in everything, the beauty in everyone. Relationships become so rich. You kind of fall in love with everyone and everything as you really see the incredible beauty of this creation that surrounds us. And we can be very much lost to that beauty if our head's in a cloud and we're highly stressed. So by awakening our ability to perceive the heart starts to melt, it starts to flow, and we really become far more loving, far more giving human beings. And ultimately, frankly, more loving and more peaceful human beings is the formula for peace, personally and globally. If you want a peaceful world, you need peaceful individuals. You can't have a green forest without green trees. Transcendental meditation will make everyone more peaceful. And by expanding human comprehension, people become less narrowly self-centered, less nationalistic in their thinking, less ego-driven, and more expanded and comprehensive, global in their thinking and global in their actions. This is really the formula for a crime-free and peaceful world. And frankly, according to research, it's quite surprising. Not everybody has to meditate, because they won't. Not everybody has to meditate to create a far more harmonious and peaceful society, a relatively small fraction of a city or a country. Practicing meditation, experiencing profound inner peace, radiating that peace among their friends and among their society, creates far lower crime rates and prevents violence and war. Extensive published research has been done on transcendental meditation practiced even in groups to prevent social stress, religious and ethnic and political tensions that fuel violence and conflict. You can really diffuse those tensions and effectively prevent crime and violence. It's been done many, many times, and it gives us, frankly, a very practical formula without trying to reach everyone to improve the quality of life in society. So I wanted to touch on that because many people are driven to meditate not just for their own benefit of brain development and health and vitality and longevity. Many people are driven to meditation for altruistic reasons, for improving the quality of life and for promoting peace on earth and enlightenment. What is enlightenment? Enlightenment is living the truth of life. And the scientifically proven truth of life today, in this scientific age, is unity. We are all united at our core. Deep within each of us is this unified field, the unified field of consciousness that pervades and connects us all. That is our profound inner nature in knowing that unity and living the unity of life, and the unity of humanity is traditionally called enlightenment. Today it's no longer mystical. We can measure enlightenment in the orderliness of brain functioning. The higher states of consciousness are a scientific reality today, and everyone who meditates grows very quickly in these qualities of higher states of consciousness. That just means using your full potential of mind, body, and behavior. It just means life blossoming to become the absolute best it can be. So the structure of the course, the first step in learning transcendental meditation, you've just achieved. You've heard an introductory lecture. You've learned about meditation. You've understood some of the reasons why it is worth the time to meditate to improve mind, body, and behavior. The next step would be to hear a second lecture, a so-called preparatory lecture. For that, you should really go to a center and meet a teacher and sit and hear from them more about the mechanics of meditation, how transcendental meditation differs completely, absolutely, from other techniques of meditation. And then have an interview with the teacher, get to know each other, and schedule an appointment to learn. Once one goes to a second lecture, you fix an appointment, a time to learn the TM technique, and it's learned over a period of 4 consecutive days, for about an hour and a half a day. So you need to schedule a time when you have 4 days in a row to meet your teacher and spend about an hour and a half per day. And then basically, you're an expert. Now, we encourage people to continue to come back at their convenience for a series of free meetings of checking the meditation and fine-tuning it if necessary, and advanced lectures of profound knowledge about consciousness and higher states of consciousness. That's all free for a lifetime. Once you learn the transcendental meditation technique, you can go anywhere, move anywhere, to any country, and have your meditation checked and fine-tuned and go to advanced lectures. It's a lifelong program, but it's completely at your convenience, whereas those first 4 days really need to be in a row. Secondly, there's a course fee. There's a tuition to learn. That tuition ranges from $1,500 to much lower fees for people who are students or have financial needs. including the single working parents, for example, or the unemployed or the retired, and so forth, and students and children. There's a family rate. There are scholarships. Nobody should not learn for financial reasons. Just talk to a teacher. And the course fee for Transcendental Meditation is really remarkably cheap from a number of reasons. Firstly, there's so much personal time involved. The teacher spends with you to be sure throughout life that you're enjoying the absolute maximum benefits from the program. There's a lot of personal time involved on the part of the teacher. And these teachers are highly trained and qualified and certified by Maharishi Mahesh Yogi, who brought Transcendental Meditation to the West and to the East, and 50 years ago brought it into the scientific arena by encouraging research on the actual benefits and physiology of meditation. So all the teachers of Transcendental Meditation, certified teachers, are highly trained, and it's important. They have the equivalent of a graduate degree in teaching meditation, and a lot of their time is used. It's a very easy technique to learn, but it's quite a skill to teach it. So go to a certified teacher for sure. So the tuition also, in comparison to any other college course, is very low. This is a university level course. It is offered for university credit. And compared to any other university course, the tuition is low, probably a quarter of what another university course, a comparable course, would cost. We do everything we can to keep the price low so that as many people in the world can benefit from this as possible. And then finally, there's another requirement before you schedule your 4 days, and that's the requirement of not using certain recreational drugs. Now, alcohol it's also a strong drug, but it leaves the system very quickly. We're more concerned with the effects of marijuana and stronger hallucinogens and all other what you could call recreational chemicals, only because they have a residual effect that lasts, in our experience, about 2 weeks, and they cloud the clear experience of meditation. So we ask people before they set up those 4 days in a row to be free from the use of recreational drugs for 15 days. And again, that's because we take our responsibility of teaching very seriously. We want to ensure that everybody has the very best start. After a person learns Transcendental Meditation, then they're their own responsibility. People can do whatever they do, but they will also probably find that the desire to use recreational drugs gets less and less as stress goes down and inner happiness goes up and up. So it's a very simple practice. It's the most ancient of the meditation techniques. It is simple. It is not a religion. It's not a philosophy. It makes no difference whether you believe in it or not, whether you understand it or not, because it's not an intellectual practice. Transcending is going beyond the intellect, beyond thought, to experience the ocean of consciousness, pure consciousness, at the basis of mind and matter. And from that experience, the benefits come. So I sincerely hope everyone will at least take the next step and contact a teacher, and you'll be on your way. But knowing about this and what the potential is in life, and thinking about what life could be with 100% of your full brain potential, and with vitality and health, in 15 years reduction, 12 years reduction in biological age, and increase in longevity, it's incredible what this one simple thing can do. There is nothing as healthy, not even exercise, has the proven physiological health-promoting benefits of Transcendental Meditation. It's unique in this world. It's a gift. My role in life, my mission, is to bring this to 1 million children this year with the David Lynch Foundation, and soon, I hope, 1 billion children, so that everyone on earth has this joyous, simple technique that children love and can take with them for their whole lives to be sure they unfold their full God-given potential and enjoy a very healthy, very happy, very successful life. And I certainly hope you do too. Thank you for joining me today.